The night was silent except for the soft hum of power lines running above the ruined street. The human soldier, Captain Ryan, moved slowly through the rubble. His boots crunched broken glass with every step, and the smoke of burned buildings still hung heavy in the air. He kept his rifle low, his eyes sharp, knowing danger could appear at any moment. Ryan had been separated from his unit after the ambush. 1 minute they had been moving together, the next a wall of fire had split them apart. Now he was alone. His chest ached from running, his throat dry, but he forced himself forward. He had to find survivors. A faint sound reached him. At first he thought it was the wind, but then he heard it again, a soft whimper. A child's voice. Ryan froze. He raised his weapon, scanning the broken road. Shadows stretched across the walls, but then his eyes landed on something small. It was an alien girl, no older than 10. Her skin was pale blue, glowing faintly under the moonlight. Her wide eyes were filled with fear, and her thin arms clutched a broken toy. She was sitting against a collapsed wall, shivering. Ryan's heart tightened. He had seen alien soldiers before, tall, armored, merciless. But this child was nothing like them. She was terrified, helpless, and alone. He lowered his rifle and whispered softly, "It's okay. I'm not here to hurt you." The girl blinked at him, unsure if she understood his words, but something in his calm voice made her stop shaking. Slowly, she tried to stand, but her legs gave way. Ryan stepped closer carefully, his hands open to show he was not a threat. Suddenly, his ears caught a sharp click, a sound no soldier ever wanted to hear. Ryan turned his head and his blood ran cold. Just a few steps away, hidden in the rubble, a small device blinked with a red light. An explosive. A trip mine. The alien girl was sitting only a breath away from it. "Damn it," Ryan muttered. His training screamed at him to back away, to save himself. But his heart told him something else. The girl tilted her head, confused by the beeping sound. She didn't understand what it meant. She reached out her hand toward the blinking light, curious. "No!" Ryan shouted. In that instant, time slowed. His body moved on its own. He threw himself forward, diving between the girl and the explosive. The mine went off in a deafening roar. Shrapnel ripped through the air like knives. Ryan felt the burning metal tear into his side, his back, his arms. The force threw him to the ground and the world became fire and dust. His ears rang, his lungs screamed for air, but he had done it. His body had taken the blast. The girl was safe. He lay on the cracked ground, gasping. Pain surged through every nerve, but he managed to turn his head. Through the haze of smoke, he saw the girl crawling toward him, her glowing eyes wide with shock. She touched his arm gently, her small hand trembling. Her lips moved, whispering words in her alien language. He could not understand, but he felt the meaning. She was calling him protector. Ryan tried to smile, but blood filled his mouth. His vision grew darker with each passing second. The sound of rushing footsteps echoed in the distance. More aliens, their silhouettes cutting through the smoke. He couldn't lift his rifle. He couldn't even raise his hand. The girl shouted at them, standing between Ryan and the figures. Her tiny body trembled, but her voice was fierce, almost commanding. Ryan blinked, trying to stay awake. Who were these aliens? Enemies? Allies? He couldn't tell. His chest heaved as he tried to hold on. His last clear thought was simple. At least she's safe. Darkness swallowed him. The world faded to nothing. A sharp breath filled his lungs. Captain Ryan's eyes shot open, but the world was blurry. Colors swirled together. Green light, silver walls, strange shapes moving above him. His chest rose and fell quickly, each breath heavy and painful, as if knives still pressed inside him. For a moment, he thought he was dead. But death was not supposed to hurt this much. His hands twitched, brushing against a smooth surface beneath him. It was not rubble, not the cold ground of the ruined city. It felt warm, almost alive. Voices murmured around him. He couldn't understand the words, but they carried rhythm, almost like chanting. He blinked again, forcing his vision to clear. Shapes came into focus. Tall figures standing in a circle around him. Their skin shimmered with faint light, colors shifting like flowing water. Their eyes glowed gold, unblinking. Aliens. Ryan's first instinct was to reach for his rifle, but his arm was strapped down. Panic rose in his chest. He pulled against the bindings, but his body was too weak, too broken. Then he saw her, the alien girl. The one he had saved. She stood just beyond the circle, her small frame shaking, her wide glowing eyes locked on him. Her toy was still clutched in her hands. When she saw his eyes open, she gasped and rushed forward. She tried to reach him, but one of the tall aliens blocked her path with a hand. The girl shouted in her language, pointing at Ryan, her voice breaking with emotion. Ryan couldn't understand her words, but he felt the desperation in them. She was defending him. The tall alien lowered its head as if listening, then spoke something in a deep, vibrating tone. The girl responded louder, tears rolling down her glowing cheeks. Her small fist shook at her sides. Ryan coughed, pain flaring in his chest. He wanted to tell her it was okay, that he didn't blame them, that she should not cry. But his throat was raw and only a weak groan escaped his lips. Instantly, the girl's head snapped toward him. She slipped past the alien's arm and rushed to his side. Her hands touched his face gently, trembling but full of care. She spoke soft words now, a whisper as if trying to comfort him. Ryan blinked slowly, trying to stay awake. He noticed something strange. The pain in his body was not as sharp as before. He looked down and saw faint streams of light weaving across his wounds. The bindings were not ropes. They were living bands of energy, glowing softly, knitting his torn flesh back together. Healing. They were healing him. But why? He lifted his gaze to the circle of aliens. Their golden eyes studied him coldly, like hunters watching a trapped beast. He could not tell if they pitied him or despised him. The girl turned to them, shouting again. She pointed at Ryan's chest, then touched her own heart. Her voice cracked with urgency. The aliens did not reply. Silence filled the chamber, broken only by the low hum of the strange healing table. Ryan swallowed hard, his mouth dry. "Thank you," he whispered, though he knew they could not understand. His voice was weak, almost lost. One of the aliens stepped forward, taller than the rest, wearing markings on its skin like carved lines of light. This one seemed older, its face harder, its presence heavy with authority. It looked at Ryan, then at the girl. For a long moment, no one spoke. Finally, the elder alien raised a hand. The golden light in its palm flickered, then dimmed. A single phrase rolled out, deep and slow, carrying weight, though Ryan could not grasp its meaning. The circle broke apart, and the alien stepped back. The girl sighed with relief and held Ryan's hand tightly. Her small fingers pressed against his blood-stained skin, as if she refused to let go. Ryan closed his eyes for a moment, exhaustion pulling at him. He could feel his body repairing, though each heartbeat was a storm of pain. His thoughts blurred, but one question burned inside him. Why did they save me? He tried to open his mouth again, but darkness crept at the edges of his vision. Before sleep claimed him, he caught one last sight, the elder alien staring at him, its golden eyes cold and calculating as though deciding his fate. Ryan drifted into uneasy sleep, his mind filled with the girl's trembling voice. He didn't understand her words, but the meaning was clear enough. "Don't take him. He saved me. He is mine to protect now." When Ryan woke again, the air was cooler. A dim blue light spread across the walls, and the hum of the strange table beneath him had faded. His body was still weak, but the sharp edge of pain had softened. He could breathe without fire burning in his chest. The alien girl was sitting beside him, curled up with her toy pressed tightly against her. She had fallen asleep, leaning on the edge of his bed, her small head resting on her arms. Even in sleep, her face looked tense, as if she feared someone might take him away while she closed her eyes. Ryan tried to move, but the energy bands that once held him were gone. His arm shifted slightly, and the sound made the girl stir. Her glowing eyes opened, and when she saw him awake, she sat up quickly. A bright smile spread across her tired face, and she spoke softly, her words fast but filled with relief. He didn't know her language, but he knew the meaning. She was glad he was alive. Before Ryan could speak, heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor. The girl's smile vanished. Her head turned sharply toward the doorway, her small body tensing. A moment later, 3 tall aliens entered the chamber, their golden eyes fixed on Ryan. Their armor shimmered with faint patterns of light, and their steps were firm and slow like soldiers. The girl stood up quickly, placing herself between Ryan and the visitors. Her tiny hands spread out as if to block them. She shouted something, her voice sharp, almost commanding. Ryan frowned. She was defending him again. The tallest of the aliens tilted its head, golden eyes narrowing. It spoke in a deep, echoing tone that filled the room. The girl responded louder this time, her voice breaking with emotion. She pointed at Ryan, then pressed her small fist against her chest. Tears welled up in her eyes as she shouted again. Ryan didn't need to understand the words. The meaning was clear. She was pleading for his life. The alien stepped closer. Their expressions were unreadable, but their posture was hard, unyielding. They did not look at the girl with kindness. They looked at her as if she was too young to understand the danger. Their gaze shifted back to Ryan, their golden eyes cold and suspicious. Ryan's heart raced. He wanted to sit up, to show he wasn't a threat, but his body was still weak. His arms trembled when he tried to push himself higher, and he collapsed back onto the table. The girl whirled around and rushed to his side. She held his hand, lifting it toward the Council of Aliens, shouting again. Her tears finally spilled over, glowing faintly in the blue light. Ryan squeezed her hand weakly. He wanted to tell her to stop, that she didn't need to fight for him, but he couldn't form the words. His throat was too dry, his voice too faint. The tall alien leader raised one hand and silence fell. Even the girl froze, her words caught in her throat. The leader's golden eyes locked on Ryan. For a long, tense moment it simply stared, its expression unreadable. Then it spoke slowly, each word heavy as if pronouncing judgment. The girl shook her head violently, shouting back, her voice echoing in the chamber. She stepped closer to the alien leader, her small body trembling with defiance. She pressed her tiny hand against her heart again, then pointed firmly at Ryan. Her voice cracked, but she did not stop. Ryan watched, his chest tightening. He had never seen such courage in someone so small. She was standing against her own people for him. The other aliens shifted uneasily. Their golden eyes flickered as they exchanged low whispers. Some looked doubtful, others stern, but none stepped forward. The leader finally lowered its hand. It turned away, the lines of light on its skin dimming slightly. A single word escaped its mouth, deep and final. The soldiers hesitated, then stepped back. The girl gasped softly, her eyes wide. She turned to Ryan, her face lighting up with relief. She knelt beside him, clutching his hand tightly with both of hers. Her lips moved in a whisper, gentle now, filled with promise. Ryan closed his eyes for a moment. He didn't understand the language, but he understood her meaning. You are safe, because I will not let them take you. But as the leader's cold golden eyes lingered on him one last time before leaving the chamber, Ryan knew the truth. He was alive, yes, but he was not free, and the real test of trust had not even begun. Ryan lay still, his chest rising and falling slowly, his body heavy from exhaustion. The healing bands of light still pulsed faintly around his wounds, but he knew the aliens had not saved him out of kindness. There was judgment hanging in the air, heavy and cold like a blade waiting to fall. The girl never left his side. Her small hand clutched his wrist tightly as though afraid he might be taken away at any moment. Her glowing eyes stayed fixed on the door, watching for the return of the golden-eyed figures. It did not take long. The doors opened with a hiss, and this time, more figures entered. At least a dozen tall aliens, their skin etched with glowing lines of authority, walked in silence. Their steps echoed on the metallic floor as they formed a circle around the human. At the center of them all walked the elder, the one Ryan had seen before, taller than the rest, with brighter markings that flowed like fire across his skin. Ryan's chest tightened. He knew what this was. A council. A trial. The girl gasped softly and stood. Her small body seemed tiny compared to the towering elders, but she lifted her chin with defiance. Her voice rang out, breaking the silence. She spoke quickly, passionately, her words tumbling out like a river. She pointed at Ryan again and again, her glowing tears rolling down her cheeks. The elders listened without expression. Their golden eyes never blinked, never softened. They exchanged short murmurs, their deep voices vibrating in the chamber like drums. Ryan couldn't understand their words, but he could feel the weight in them. They were deciding whether he lived or died. One of the elders stepped forward, its gaze sharp as a blade. It spoke in a voice so deep Ryan felt it in his bones. The girl shouted back instantly, her tiny fists clenched, her body trembling with emotion. She pressed her hand to her chest again, then spread her arms wide, standing in front of Ryan as if her thin frame could shield him. Ryan wanted to sit up, to show them he was not a threat, that he had only acted to protect the girl. But when he tried to push himself up, pain shot through his ribs, forcing him to collapse back down. His breath came out ragged and he cursed his weakness. The elders looked down at him. Their eyes held no pity, only cold judgment. The elder leader stepped closer, his golden gaze burning like fire. He raised one hand and light swirled above his palm. A vision appeared in the air, an image formed from energy. Ryan saw himself leaping toward the girl, the explosion tearing into his back, his body shielding her. The vision hung in silence for a long moment. Then the elder closed his hand and the light vanished. The council murmured again. Some voices were sharp, others low and doubtful. Ryan couldn't hear the words, but he could feel the divide. Some wanted him gone, others hesitated. The girl's voice broke through the noise again, high and fierce. She pointed at the vision's fading glow, then at Ryan's battered body. Her cries grew louder until her voice cracked, tears falling freely now. She dropped to her knees, pressing her forehead against the floor before the elders, her small hands spread out in desperate plea. Ryan's throat tightened. She was begging for him, for a human she had only just met. The council fell silent once more. The elder leader looked down at her for a long moment, then turned his gaze back to Ryan. Their eyes locked, human and alien, neither yielding. The elder's face was unreadable, carved from stone, but his silence stretched like a blade hanging in the air. Finally, he spoke, a single word, deep and final. The chamber filled with murmurs again, but this time the voices carried less anger, more restraint. The guards lowered their weapons. The circle broke slightly. The girl lifted her head, her glowing eyes wide with shock. Then relief washed over her face and she rushed back to Ryan's side, hugging his arm tightly. She whispered something softly, her voice trembling with joy. Ryan didn't understand the word, but he felt it in her grip. He was safe for now. But as the elder turned away, his golden eyes flickering with cold fire, Ryan knew this was no true mercy. This was only a delay. The council had spared him, yes. But their decision was clear in the way they looked at him. He was not one of them. He was a question, a risk, and risks were never left unanswered forever. The days blurred together. Ryan's wounds healed slowly, glowing threads of alien energy weaving across his skin each night as he slept. The pain was still there, deep and sharp in his ribs and arms, but he forced himself to move, to stretch, to walk again. The aliens gave him food, strange fruits that glowed faintly, water that tasted of metal but refreshed his body. They gave him no weapons, no freedom, and always 2 guards followed wherever he went. Their golden eyes never left him. Still Ryan kept going. He refused to lie in bed waiting for death. The little girl never left him for long. She brought him food, guided him through the alien halls, and showed him small wonders of her people, living lights that floated like fireflies, walls that shifted like flowing water, a sky that shimmered with strange stars through the transparent ceiling. Her voice, though he could not understand, was always soft, always warm. Ryan answered with smiles, nods, and the few words he could manage. He tried to repeat her sounds, to mimic her language. She laughed each time, correcting him gently. Slowly, they built a fragile bridge of meaning. But outside those gentle moments, Ryan felt the weight of suspicion pressing down on him. Everywhere he went, eyes followed. Whispers echoed in the halls. He didn't need to know the language to understand what they said. He does not belong here. He is dangerous. He should not live among us. At night, when the girl slept nearby, Ryan lay awake, staring at the ceiling of the strange chamber. He thought of Earth, of his unit, of the explosion that had torn everything apart. He didn't know if his friends were alive. He didn't even know if humans still fought on this world. But he knew one thing. The aliens had spared him once. They might change their minds tomorrow. If he wanted to survive, if he wanted to protect the girl who had risked everything for him, he had to earn their trust. He had to prove he was more than a wounded enemy. So Ryan forced himself harder each day. He walked the long corridors, ignoring the sharp pain in his side. He helped carry supplies when the guards would allow it. He studied the aliens' movements, their tools, their routines. He did not act as a soldier, but as a worker, a guest trying to learn. The girl noticed. She smiled proudly when he managed to stand taller, when he carried a heavy basket without falling. She pulled his hand and showed him to others, as if saying, "See, he is strong. He is not a threat." Some guards softened. Their golden eyes, once hard as stone, flickered with curiosity. One even lowered his weapon slightly when Ryan passed. Small changes, but enough to give him hope. Yet not all hearts shifted. One night, as Ryan returned to his chamber, he felt the burn of eyes sharper than usual. In the shadows, two figures whispered, their voices cold. When they noticed him, they fell silent, their stares like knives. Ryan's instincts screamed at him. He knew those looks. He had seen them in war, in soldiers who had already decided someone did not deserve to live. Trouble was coming. The next morning, the girl entered with food and her bright smile, unaware of the danger. Ryan forced a smile back, though unease coiled in his chest. He had to be ready. He had to stay strong, for her. As days passed, Ryan grew more certain. Someone among the aliens wanted him gone, and when that moment came, he would not have the strength to fight them. Not alone, but still his resolve hardened. He would not give up. He had taken shrapnel to save the girl once, and he would do it again if he had to. Even broken, even unwanted, he would stand between her and danger. Because deep inside, Ryan understood something the Council did not. He was not here to destroy. He was here to protect, and he would prove it. The night sky burned red. Ryan woke to the sound of distant thunder, but this was not weather. The ground shook under him, and muffled explosions echoed across the alien city. He sat up sharply, his chest aching, his hand instinctively reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. The little girl stirred in her sleep beside his bed. Her toy slipped from her hands as the chamber shook again, dust falling from the ceiling. Her glowing eyes snapped open wide with fear. She clung to Ryan's arm, whispering fast words he couldn't understand, but her trembling told him everything. Something terrible was happening. Shouts filled the corridor outside. Heavy footsteps pounded closer. The doors hissed open and two alien guards rushed in, their golden eyes wide, their armor glowing bright in warning. One barked orders at Ryan, pointing toward the far side of the chamber. The other grabbed the girl and pushed her behind him. Ryan struggled to his feet. "What's happening?" he demanded, though he knew they wouldn't answer. His instincts screamed the truth. The camp was under attack. The guards shoved him forward, forcing him into the corridor. The air smelled of smoke and burning metal. Far ahead, flashes of light painted the walls. Blaster fire, energy bolts striking stone. The screams of aliens echoed from every direction. Ryan's pulse raced. Enemies had found them. Whoever they were powerful enough to break through the city's defenses. The girl clung to his hand tightly as they hurried through the halls. The guards shouted again, trying to move faster. Ryan stumbled, pain flaring in his ribs, but he forced himself forward. He couldn't let go of her. Not now. Suddenly, a blast ripped through the ceiling ahead. Fire and smoke erupted, and rubble crashed down. The guards were thrown back, their bodies slamming against the walls. One lay still, his glowing armor flickering. The other groaned, struggling to rise. Ryan coughed through the smoke, pulling the girl close. Figures emerged from the haze, dark silhouettes with glowing red visors. They weren't the same kind of aliens. Their armor was jagged, their movements sharp, their weapons raised. The girl screamed. Ryan's heart pounded. He had no rifle, no knife, no armor, only his body still healing. But when one of the attackers leveled a weapon at the girl, Ryan didn't think. He moved. With a roar, he threw himself forward. His shoulder slammed into the soldier, knocking the weapon aside. Pain shot through his chest, but he ignored it. He grabbed the attacker's arm and twisted, forcing the weapon away. The blast fired into the ceiling, showering sparks. The alien soldier snarled, striking Ryan hard across the face. He stumbled, blood filling his mouth, but he stood his ground. Behind him, the girl cried out, her small voice full of terror. Another attacker stepped forward, weapon aimed at her. Ryan's eyes widened. He lunged, throwing himself between them. The blast struck his arm, searing pain tearing through his flesh. He collapsed to one knee, gasping. The attackers raised their weapons again, but before they could fire, golden light filled the corridor. The elder guards had arrived, their eyes burning like fire. Energy spears crackled in their hands as they clashed with the intruders. The hall erupted in chaos, shouts, sparks, the crash of metal against metal. Ryan dragged himself to his feet, his wounded arm hanging useless. He pulled the girl behind him, shielding her with his body. His vision blurred, but he stood firm, teeth clenched. He would not move. He would not let them touch her. Through the haze of battle, one of the elder aliens saw him. Their golden eyes widened, not in suspicion this time, but in shock. They had seen it with their own eyes. The human, broken and bleeding, standing between death and the child. The fight raged on until the attackers were forced back, retreating into the smoke. Silence fell slowly, broken only by the crackle of flames. Ryan swayed on his feet, exhaustion pulling him down. His knees buckled and he collapsed. The girl rushed to him, clutching his face with trembling hands. Her tears glowed as they fell on his skin. She shouted desperately, calling for help. The elder guards approached, their expressions no longer cold. They looked at Ryan with something new, something heavy and rare. Respect. Before darkness claimed him, Ryan saw it. Their golden eyes were no longer filled with suspicion. They had witnessed his choice, his sacrifice, and for the first time since the explosion, Ryan felt the truth. He was no longer just a prisoner. He had become something else, a protector. When Ryan opened his eyes again, the world was quiet. The smell of smoke still lingered faintly, but the sharp taste of ash was gone. He was lying once more on the glowing healing table, his arm wrapped in bands of light. His ribs felt heavy, but the sharp pain had dulled. He breathed deeply, realizing he was alive. Beside him sat the girl, her small head resting against the edge of the bed. Her toy was clutched tightly in her hands, but her grip on his wrist was even tighter. She had not let go of him. Ryan swallowed, his throat dry. "You stayed?" he whispered. Her eyes fluttered open, glowing softly. When she saw him awake, relief flooded her face. She spoke quickly, words tumbling out with joy. He could not understand them, but he understood her tears and her smile. Before he could respond, the door slid open. The council entered. The tall elders stepped forward, their golden eyes glowing brighter than before. Guards flanked them, but their weapons were lowered. The air felt heavy, thick with importance. Ryan tensed. This was it. The final decision. The elder leader approached, his glowing markings flickering like fire across his skin. He stared at Ryan for a long moment, then turned to the girl. She stood quickly, her small frame shaking, but her chin lifted in defiance. She shouted, pointing to Ryan's chest, her voice breaking with urgency. The elders listened, but this time their eyes were softer. They had seen what she described. They had seen Ryan throw himself into fire not once but twice for one of their own. The elder raised a hand and silence filled the chamber. He stepped close to Ryan, his golden gaze burning like a sun. Slowly he extended his palm, hovering it above Ryan's chest. Ryan froze. He did not know if this was blessing or judgment. Then the elder spoke. The words were low, steady, carrying weight like stone. Though Ryan could not understand them, he felt the shift in the room. The guards lowered their heads. The other elders bowed slightly. The girl gasped, her eyes widening. She rushed to Ryan and clutched his hand, repeating one word again and again, her voice trembling with joy. Ryan looked at her, confused. "What does it mean?" She pressed her small hand against his heart, then pointed to the council. "Family," she whispered in broken human tongue. Her voice cracked, but the meaning was clear. Ryan's chest tightened. Family. The elder lowered his palm and stepped back, nodding once. The decision was made. Ryan was no longer just a prisoner, no longer just a stranger. He was accepted. The guards who once glared at him with suspicion now looked at him with respect. Some even touched their fists to their chests, a gesture he guessed was honor. The girl's tears spilled freely, but her smile shone brighter than any light. Ryan let out a shaky breath. For the first time since the explosion, since the pain and the judgment, he felt something warm spread inside him. Belonging. But deep in his chest, a soldier's instinct whispered caution. Acceptance today did not mean safety tomorrow. The attack on the city had proven one thing. Enemies still hunted them, and wherever there were enemies, there would be war. As the council turned to leave, Ryan caught the elder leader's eyes one last time. In those golden depths, he saw not only respect but warning. The war beyond these walls was far from over. The girl tugged his sleeve gently, pulling his thoughts back. She smiled up at him, speaking softly. Though he could not understand every word, he knew the meaning. You are one of us now. Protector, brother, family. Ryan leaned back against the table, closing his eyes. His body still ached, and his wounds would take time to heal. But his resolve burned brighter than ever. He had chosen once to protect the girl, and he would keep choosing it, no matter the cost. He was no longer just a soldier of Earth. He was something more, something the aliens themselves had named him. A protector. a brother, accepted among them. And though shadows of war gathered on the horizon, Ryan knew one thing for certain: he would never stand alone again.